The summer heat at Haneda Airport had done nothing to slow the crowd. Bodies swarmed like bees at a hive. Tourists, businessmen, families, students, all funneling through international arrivals with the kind of organized chaos only airports seem to master. But among them was someone different. She arrived at Gate 23, stepping off a flight from Zurich. Tall, elegant, and in a crisp ivory suit that defied the 34° humidity, the woman looked like she belonged at a diplomatic summit. Her suitcase was standard, wheels squeaking slightly, a purple ribbon tied to the handle, but her presence wasn't. People noticed her. They couldn't help it. She carried herself like royalty, like she expected the world to adjust around her. Immigration was uneventful, until it wasn't. She handed over her documents to the officer. Passport, visa, customs form, all completed in neat blue ink. But when the officer glanced at her passport, his brow furrowed. "Taured?" he asked, holding the page closer to the light. "What country is that?" The woman didn't flinch. "Taured," she repeated. Her Japanese was flawless. "Near Andorra, between France and Spain." The officer's fingers paused mid-keystroke. He tilted the passport, then scanned it. The screen beeped once, then flashed red. "Please wait a moment," he said, pressing a button beneath the desk. Behind him, two plainclothes officers appeared like shadows. The woman's eyes tracked them but showed no fear. "I'm here for business," she added calmly. "Third time in Japan this year." The officers led her politely but firmly to a secondary inspection room. Fluorescent lights buzzed. A fan oscillated, barely pushing the air. They sat her down, took her documents, and disappeared behind a frosted glass door. Inside the control room, Agent Sakamoto stared at the monitor. "I've checked every record," he said to his superior. "There's no such country, and this passport, it's real. The materials, the ink, and the holograms. But Taured doesn't exist." They ran her ID through Interpol. Nothing. They called the Tokyo embassy of every European country. None had ever heard of Taured. There was no stamp trail, no bank codes, no data on the country at all. It wasn't just obscure, it was impossible. When they returned to question her, she remained composed. "This is absurd," she said. "I've been to Japan many times. My company has offices here." "What company?" "Lutrex Corporation, headquarters in Taured, global branches." Sakamoto typed it into the system. No results. "Could it be under another name?" She looked offended. "No, we're ISO certified. You're telling me you've never heard of Lutrex?" They brought in a map and asked her to point to Taured. She looked baffled, then circled a spot between France and Spain. "But that's Andorra," said one agent. The woman blinked. "No, that's Taured. It's always been Taured." They pulled out political maps, satellite imagery, even Google Earth. None of it showed Taured, just Andorra. "You've all lost your minds," she snapped, for the first time showing emotion. "Is this some kind of prank?" Sakamoto exchanged a glance with his partner. They had no answers. That night, they placed her in a nearby hotel room under light surveillance. The plan was to contact international intelligence in the morning. They scanned her belongings: phone, untraceable; currency, unfamiliar but legitimate looking; even a business card embossed with the Lutrex logo, an intricate silver emblem no one recognized. Before leaving, Sakamoto paused. "If this is an act," he said, "it's flawless." She looked him dead in the eye. "I'm not acting. You are the ones pretending, or something is very wrong here." He nodded and left. The next morning, when they returned to retrieve her for more questioning, the hotel room was empty. No signs of forced exit, no calls, no hotel checkout. The woman had vanished, along with every trace of her existence. Detective Arata Shinjo had been with Tokyo's Metropolitan Police for nearly 2 decades. He'd seen his share of oddities, cases that defied easy explanations. But this was different. A woman vanishing from a guarded hotel room without cameras catching a thing? That wasn't just suspicious, it was impossible. Room 811 at the Hotel Muramatsu was sealed as a crime scene the moment the cleaning staff found it empty. The lock had no record of opening after 10:33 p.m., when Agent Sakamoto had personally checked her in. The hallway cameras showed nothing. No visitors, No sound. No one entering or exiting. Shinjo stepped inside, his shoes silent on the thick carpet. Everything looked untouched. The bed was made. The suitcase still sat in the corner. The minibar was unopened. The only strange detail was the mirror. A large smear of condensation ran down its center, though the air conditioning had been off all night. Forensics dusted the room. No fingerprints, none, not even her own. The Lutrex business cards? Gone. Her documents? Missing. But oddly, her clothes were still in the suitcase. So were her toiletries. If she left voluntarily, she left without packing. She couldn't have vanished, said Sakamoto, pacing behind Shinjo. We had officers posted in the lobby. We checked the fire exits. Every camera was reviewed. Shinjo didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the only item of interest, a folded napkin from the hotel bar, sitting on the nightstand. Written in ink were 2 lines. I remember mountains where there is sea. I remember roads that lead nowhere. That was it. He bagged the napkin for analysis and checked the bathroom. Nothing. Then the closet, empty. He tapped the walls out of habit, solid, no hidden doors. But when he reached the corner of the closet floor, he noticed a small seam, barely visible. He crouched, ran a fingernail along the edge, and lifted a loose wooden tile. Beneath it, a small pouch, wrapped in a velvet handkerchief. Inside, there was an ID badge, Lutrex Corporation. A photograph of the woman. Name, Yelena Morozova. Beneath it, a logo, the same silver emblem as before. On the back was a QR code. They scanned it. It led to a dead page, or rather it should have. The browser redirected to a flickering, unstable page that looked half-finished. Lines of garbled text. Binary sequences. A timestamp stuck on July 27, 1954. Shinjo's brow furrowed. That was the exact same day the first known case of the Taured man was recorded at Haneda Airport. Decades earlier, a man who claimed to be from Taured. He also vanished from custody. When Shinjo brought this up to his team, no one had heard of it. He scoured archives, requested international case files, even called retired officials. But the deeper he dug, the more resistance he encountered. Requests were denied. Files were missing. Some officers he reached out to had never even heard of the incident, despite it being once publicized. Erase something long enough, Sakamoto said grimly, and it stops being real. Still, Shinjo persisted. He checked with the European consulates. None had records of Lutrex. No registration under that name. No companies operating with that trademark. He even contacted Interpol's cyber division. They ran the logo through visual recognition software. The results? Classified. Only one analyst dared speak off the record. This logo showed up once before, she whispered, on documents seized from a failed experiment in Geneva. Something to do with interdimensional boundaries. Shinjo felt the bottom of his stomach drop. You're joking. I wish I was. By now, Shinjo was convinced this woman wasn't lying. She believed she was from Taured, but whether that was a delusion or something far more disturbing, he couldn't say. 2 nights later, as Shinjo sat at his desk, surrounded by maps, documents, and the strange QR code printout, something happened. His computer monitor flickered, then blacked out. The lights in the station blinked once, then again, and then his phone rang. The number was blocked. He answered. Static, then a voice, a whisper. Stop looking, then silence. Detective Shinjo didn't sleep that night. After the call, after the voice, he sat in his office with the lights off, staring at the blinking cursor on his desktop. No missed calls, no trace of the signal. His landline was analog, untraceable through modern spoofing software. He replayed the voice in his head. Stop looking. It hadn't sounded human, not robotic either, but flattened, as though dragged through a tunnel before hitting his ear. Low, hushed, but clear. He could feel it still, reverberating like a sound that settled in the bones. Against every protocol, he took the Lutrex badge home with him. That night, he tried scanning the QR code again using an old phone, one not connected to his department's VPN. Instead of the dead link or corrupted page, something new happened. The screen blinked white, then black, then displayed a single phrase: "Coordinates received, await transmission window." Beneath that, a countdown timer began. 72, key. 3 days. Shinjo took a photo, printed the frame, and stared at it. The next morning, another strange event occurred. Sakamoto called. "You're not going to believe this." Another passport had been flagged at Narita Airport. This one said it was from Lerden, a country near Norway, supposedly. A man this time, older, dressed like an Eastern Bloc diplomat from the 80s. He had a valid visa, perfect documentation, and a story nearly identical to Yelena's. "They're connected," Shinjo said flatly. The man from Lerden was brought in for questioning. Unlike Yelena, he was agitated, confused. His Japanese was functional but stiff. His answers seemed fragmented, almost rehearsed. When asked to point out Lerden on a map, he hovered over northern Europe, near the Barents Sea. But when shown the same area on a digital globe, he grew visibly distressed. "This is wrong," he kept repeating. "The terrain is wrong." The man insisted he was an engineer, traveling for a nuclear conference, but no record of such a conference existed. His currency resembled Icelandic notes but was printed with strange metallic thread and bore the face of a monarch who never existed. When they asked his name, he gave it, Mikhail Tren. Back at headquarters, Shinjo compared Mikhail's passport with Yelena's. The design was different, the seals were different, but one detail was identical. Each passport bore a faint, barely visible watermark beneath the lamination. When held up to UV light, the same image appeared, a six-pointed spiral inside a circle. Not a national symbol, a shared symbol. Shinjo felt the room tilt slightly as a realization settled in. This wasn't about one woman or one country. This was a pattern, parallel lives, collapsing realities. "Maybe they're slipping through," Sakamoto murmured, "from other timelines, other Earths." It sounded insane, but every logical door had already been closed. Every rational explanation shredded. These people were not imposters. They were displaced. And that timer on the QR code? It wasn't arbitrary. It was a window. A moment where these people, who'd somehow slipped into our world, could either return or be trapped forever. That night, Shinjo pulled the case file on the 1954 Taured man. It was thin, faded, almost scrubbed from history, but in the margins he found one handwritten note. Said he would be retrieved within 72 hours. Then, gone. The countdown continued, 47 to 12:19. Shinjo knew he didn't have much time. He requested Mikhail Tren be transferred to a secure room, monitored 24/7. But at 3:11 a.m., Mikhail screamed so loud it triggered a building-wide alert. When guards rushed in, he was gone. Clothes in a pile, shoes left behind, no forced entry, no broken vents, just gone. Exactly 71 hours after arrival. Shinjo stared at the camera footage. Just like Yelena, the recording flickered. For exactly 4 seconds, it went black. When it returned, Mikhail was gone. And the spiral watermark? It was now etched into the floor where he'd been standing. Shinjo didn't go home. For the first time in years, he felt like he was being watched. The shadows in the corners of rooms held too long. Monitors flickered when he passed. The air itself seemed heavier, as if thick with something unspoken. The countdown continued. 12:34:03. He now believed that these weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a larger event, a convergence of fractures between timelines or dimensions or something without a name. He had long stopped trying to make sense of it using the logic of Earth. Instead, he leaned into the anomaly. With the original QR code still active, he noticed a change at the 10-hour mark. The website it linked to, previously a jumble of corrupted code, flashed again and displayed a new phrase. Beacon located, awaiting receiver. He didn't know why, but he instinctively opened his phone's compass app. The needle spun erratically, then locked on a new heading, 299 W. A set of coordinates displayed beneath it. Mountains deep inland, far from Tokyo. The exact location? An abandoned weather station near Mount Asahi, a place so remote it hadn't been used in over 20 years. Shinjo didn't report it. He didn't tell Sakamoto. He packed a duffel bag, loaded his old sidearm, and drove through the night. By dawn, he was standing in front of a rusted gate, the sign barely legible. Met, Research Station, Asahi Branch. Barbed wire hung like cobwebs. Snow patches lingered even in summer. The building was intact but silent. He stepped inside. Dust covered everything. Old chairs, overturned file cabinets, a chalkboard with faded equations. And in the center of the room, something impossible. A metal platform raised slightly above the ground. Wires trailed out from it like veins, long since cut. On one edge, a control panel with a small glass slot. Shinjo froze. The slot was the exact dimensions of the Lutrex ID badge. Hands trembling, he removed the card from his coat and slid it in. The panel lit up. No power source, no generators. Yet it glowed. A low hum filled the air, like the sound of a plane at 30,000 feet. The badge slid deeper, locked in place. Then the countdown reappeared on the panel, ANR 0321. The timer ticked down. Shinjo stood, alone in the decaying room. He felt something, movement, though nothing visible shifted. The air began to shimmer. His skin prickled. At foryou 111, a second platform rose from beneath the floor. No sound, just sudden presence. On it, standing calm as ever, was Yelena. She hadn't aged a day. Her ivory suit still immaculate, her hair still swept back. She looked at Shinjo and tilted her head slightly as if recognizing him. "You're not supposed to be here," she said softly. Shinjo stepped forward. "Who are you?" "I told you," she replied. "I'm from Taured." "But Taured doesn't exist." "It does, just not here." The air around her wavered, like heat over asphalt. Shinjo felt nauseous, like his stomach was trying to leave his body. The platform beneath her lit up. She looked at him with something like pity. "We're not invading. We don't even mean to arrive. It happens when the windows weaken. Every time one of your scientists pokes a little too hard at the veil." "What is this place?" he asked. "This room?" "A terminal," she replied. "For travelers like me. It finds us when we don't belong." The badge on the control panel pulsed blue. "Can it be stopped?" he asked. "No," she said, "but it can be denied. That's what your people tried to do in '54. They tried to erase us. That's why they failed." The platform beneath her began to glow. And then came the sound. Not a bang, not an alarm. It was a tone, pure and deep, vibrating through the walls, the floor, his bones. The light wrapped around her like water pulled upward, peeling her out of space. Shinjo lunged forward. "Wait!" Yelena looked back. "Don't follow," she said. "You wouldn't survive the transition." And with that, she was gone. No flash, no collapse. Just an empty platform, the badge ejected onto the floor. Shinjo stood there for hours, numb. The countdown was gone. The screen was dead. He picked up the badge and turned it over. The spiral emblem was no longer silver. It was now black, like ink burned into the metal. As he left the station, Shinjo couldn't shake the feeling that something had been exchanged. Not just a disappearance, a balancing. Back in Tokyo, no one believed his story. The badge no longer activated anything. The coordinates? Gone. The files? Deleted. But then came the third arrival. A teenage girl intercepted at Osaka International, holding a passport from Virginia, claiming she was here to find her parents. Last seen in this version of Japan. The pattern was repeating. Only now Shinjo knew it would never stop.